You know, obviously it was disappointing that we didn't win the game. I thought when you went back and watched the tape, there was a lot of positives in there, a lot of young people playing extremely well. I think the biggest thing is that we had 104 guys in here on Sunday watching the tape, and I believe I had 208 ears listening to me. So we're going to see what happens from there, and ready for questions.
Coach, how much are you able to chalk it up as kind of one of those games for your offense, or do you have concerns that they are going to be able to go faster?
You know, I really believe that there was plays to be made and the plays weren't being made. Now, obviously, when you go back and look at the tape, I mean, the dome must have been extremely hot. We had a lot of cramping going on at certain times of the game on the other team, which obviously slows us down quite a bit. But outside of that, I just thought that it came down to us not making the plays that we needed to make, which was really affecting the tempo.
When you kind of went back and watched the defense toward the end of the game, what was different compared to how they were earlier in the game? Why maybe was the pressure on the quarterback not quite as consistent?
Well, I would think that different calls, different situations, there were a lot of things going on. Our defense played extremely well. They really did. When you look at what they did in the first half with turnovers and things like that, getting off the football field, having some mishaps in the kicking game, I'll take that defensive performance for the next 10 games, and wherever the chips fall, they fall. I thought they played extremely well.
So, Mark, do you feel like the offense is missing, or the passing attack specifically is missing a deep threat?
You know, we don't, those DBs were playing like what they call a three-bail technique, so they were really running their tails back deep and taking away the deep ball. And what we need to do is try to work underneath, and we were doing that. But I don't know the answer to that. We're going to have to see as the season goes, you know.
Yeah.
Coach, you said that you liked the way the defense played in this game. What can you say about the secondary in the first two games? What you like about the rotation so far?
Well, the rotation's okay. There's obviously when we put as much stress as we do on our secondary, you know, there's times when they have individual plays in the game. They're going to be huge plays from the consumer's eyes, so to speak. And we just need to have a steady, consistent average on those plays. You know, you had the deep ball to one side in the first game. You had another deep ball, you know, the second game. And, you know, you're just trying to limit that mathematically over an entire season so it's a good, acceptable number, so to speak. But, again, I thought those guys played well. I mean, for them to hold them to what they did, it wasn't a bad game by any stretch of the means.
Chris, you know, as a coach who uses tempo as a weapon, is there anything you'd like to see done to discourage teams from cramping at convenient times in the game?
Now, we don't know if that's convenient or not. That's all up to the medical people, and they run out there, and I'm sure I would love to keep track on how many plays those guys are out before they come back in. That'd be an interesting stat. Maybe sometimes when I have some free time, I can do it. But safety comes first. If those guys are tired and they're cramping up, we need to get them out of the game for their own health.
Do you think it's worth maybe having a player stay on more than one play if they're kind of pulled from the game due to an injury?
I'm not going to get into that part of it. Let the medical people handle that.
Matt?
You know, you have about 20 players from the Florida area. I'm just curious if you've been able to touch base with them in their area.
Absolutely. Been touching base with all of them continuously, you know, not only because I want to make sure that they're okay, but mentally you want to know where those guys are at and what's going on with their families. So I have been. So far, everybody on our team is okay, and, you know, as that thing continues to die down, we have to see where everybody's at when it's all said and done. You know, I'm trying to think back. I can't think the name, which is a disrespect in the hurricane. But this happened somewhere between 90 and 93 when I was at Purdue University. There was a hurricane down there as well. And I remember it happened in the fall, and I didn't get to get out there until the spring. And I went out there in the spring, and I'm doing my recruiting area, and it was a Friday, and I got done early. And I had some free time. And one of the coaches said, "Hey, have you been down there to see the hurricane?" I said, "Well, that happened way in the fall." He says, "It still hasn't changed. Go down there and take a look at it." And I drove south, and it took me about an hour and a half to drive, and I had to get back to catch a night flight. But it was amazing. It was 3-4 months later, and you go down there, and it was like I told you I'm a movie guy. It's like what they say it's going to look like after a nuclear bomb hits or something. You know, there was no leaves on any of the trees. And this is Florida, where it's super green, and you're driving, and there's no leaves. You're driving with the windows down, and there's no sounds. because there's not a lot of birds, because there's not a lot of food, because all those trees. It's really kind of, it makes you really respect Mother Nature and the power of those things. And I'm talking about 3 or 4 months after it happened. I'm not even talking about being right there with the water and the wind and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if you've never been around to see what that thing looks like at the end, it's devastating now.
Is that Hurricane Andrew in the Homestead area?
Check the dates. That's why I said I don't want to give it the wrong name, but those are the years. Those were the years it was. Yes, sir.
You know, September 11th, just what you can say about remembering now 16 years later what this country has become, kind of what your hopes are for the future, remembering a day like that day.
I was at Texas A&M, probably one of the most military universities you could be at that's not a military university. And Coach R.C. Slocum came and got us out of our staff rooms to say that, you know, the first tower had been hit. We're ball coaches in there working. And we were sitting there, and of course we just thought it was a mishap, yada, yada, yada. And then we were actually sitting there watching when the second tower, when the plane went into the second tower. And that's when we knew it wasn't an accident, that this stuff was deliberate. And, you know, your first thought is, oh my God, this is really serious. I'm a military kid. So the first thing I think about is this is the real deal, and guys are about to get activated, and military bases are about to get emptied, and people are about to get deployed. Those were the thoughts that were going through my mind. And, you know, a lot of other things, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But there was one interesting thing, and I've got my hats off, kudos off for call it Aggie Land, for the Aggies. I can't remember what day. Was it a Tuesday that happened? Anybody remember? It was a Tuesday? Was it a Tuesday? Isn't that crazy you can remember the day? So like I said, I thought it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday. And I remember on Wednesday, they talked about doing something, whether we were going to play the game on Saturday, not play the game on Saturday. And they said on Wednesday, they decided they were going to play the game and that they wanted to do something special. And they sent out an email to all the season ticket holders on Wednesday and what section they what section they sat in to make the stadium come out red, white, and blue. And this was on a Wednesday. And this was my first experience with, you know, true Aggie stuff. And I'm like, are they going to be able to do that? This is short notice. And every veteran coach in there said, you watch this. You watch this. And I'll be doggone, on Saturday, that stadium was red, white, and blue by sections. And when I mean red, white, and blue, I don't mean there's half maroon, half red. I mean, it was done to the T. And just my hat's off, but there's a big military tradition behind that university. It's kind of been a military university, even though it's not a military university, and they have a lot of pride in, you know, the armed services and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things that I remember about 9/11, among some of the other things that I'm not going to share. Thanks for asking the question.
Mark? You know, no offense to Middle Tennessee State, but I don't think anybody puts them in the same category as Louisiana State, Florida State, even NC State. What would you say to SU fans who are very concerned that there are not many winnable games left on the schedule?
Well, I would think that for all the fans that like to pick the games before they happen, I'd say just sit back and wait. I mean, Virginia Tech wasn't a winnable game last year. Things happen for a reason. Western Michigan almost went out and beat USC, you know, and we had ex-players playing a fantastic game in that game, helped them almost win that game. So I don't look at things like that. Every game is a different game, and I don't try to predict the future. I think it's hard to do, and we'll just play them one at a time and see what happens.
Time for 2 more questions. Matt?
Coach, just want to know how Steve Ishmael graded out over the last couple of games. I mean, double-digit catches, over 100 yards. What has impressed you about him?
You know, I thought that Ish played well. You know, obviously we need him to play extremely well. He's one of our go-to guys, and we can't have him make any mistakes. And, you know, there's a lot of pressure on him to perform at that level, but he's got big shoulders. He can handle it. And the key thing with good football teams is that your good players have to be consistently good. And then those other guys, they can be occasional, but your key guys, they need to be consistent. And we need him to be a consistent player. And he knows what our expectations are, and I'm sure he'll meet them.
Last question from Steven.
I think coming into the year, you kind of knew How would you assess them through the first two games, and what, if anything, gives you hope that, you know, they might continue to get better here as the season goes on?
You always have hope. My biggest thing with the offensive line is you got to remember we had two guys on the inside that are playing their very first college games. Period. You know, and really they've only played 6 quarters. They've basically played 6 quarters. So they're going to continue to get better. They're freshmen. The only thing great about freshmen is that next year they're sophomores. And it's always been that way. It's going to always be that way in football. When you get guys that are 18 and 19 going against guys that are 22 and 21, it's a big difference. I mean, think about you guys at 18 and 19, and then think about you guys at 21 and 22. Totally different situation. You know how we're late bloomers, all right? So those guys will grow up, and when they grow up, we'll be fine.
Will they grow up in time to run the ball well this season?
Again, I don't have a crystal ball.
Could you just comment on 40, since we kind of know now he'll be out to Clemson? And I guess you're glad that he's not out the rest of the year, but obviously he'll be missed.
I don't know when he's going to come back, but you know, Cordy is a big thing in what we do. He's an emotional leader. He's a fantastic person. He loves to play the game. When you look at Cordy's eyes, when you talk about football, eyes, I mean, you're looking right through the middle, right to the windows of his soul. The guy loves to play, and I love playing games when he's next to me. I love playing games while he's out there. It makes me feel good, and it makes me feel safe to know that he's out there. Now, he's not going to be out there for a while. We need other guys to step up. I feel bad for him based off his personal, you know, situations that's happened the last 2 years. I feel really bad for him. But I love him as a person. He's working on his degrees. He'll get his degree and hopefully get an opportunity to get him back.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.